From the Middle is proud to be a founding member of Odd Pods Media. Hey, boys and girls and everybody else. Welcome to episode number 208 of From the Middle. I'm Corey, and that's Dillon, and that's Kendall. We're three middle-class guys living in the middle chapters of our lives in the middle of America with a point of view that falls somewhere in the middle. If you're not sure what our podcast is all about, we're a comedy, culture, entertainment, and interview-style podcast. And we just talk about whatever's going on in our lives, being dads, being husbands, vacationing, the things that we're streaming and shows that we're watching and things we're enjoying. In this week's episode, we talk a lot about shirts and vacation and some beach etiquette things, and then just a lot of stuff that we're streaming on the back half of the episode. We hope you enjoy. We laugh a little. We have a lot of fun, and we hope you do too. Have a good week.
Oh, for the love. Sorry, just clearing my Mountain Dew hole.
I got my phone hole cleaned today.
That's where you keep it? You're so cerebral and you're so developed and evolved.
From the Middle after dark over here.
Welcome to From the Middle. We're back, everybody. All three of us.
Hey, yeah. Woo.
The OG three, Dillon, Kendall, and myself, Corey, back from vacation. Dillon, I just have to say, you did a great job last week with the Grief Burrito Boys. You guys have such a natural report.
Something sounded different this week already. That's what it is. We sounded significantly less classy already.
Yep.
What are you talking about?
It was a ton of fun. It's always a pleasure to chat with Harrison and Jordan. If you didn't check out that episode, we had him on 67 and then again at 200 and whatever last week was. So 207. So it was great. Tons of fun. Thank you. Yeah, we had fun.
I listened to the episode on my noise canceling headphones on the back deck of the vacation home we rented with friends that butts up right to the beach and the ocean, and I just laughed and enjoyed, and it felt like what other people have said about our show, which is I wanted to chime in. I wanted to chime in on some of the topics that you had brought up. There were a couple things. One, movies and television shows that take place in small towns. I had a point of view on that, which was it seems like a lot of monster movies take place in small towns. And I think that's their way of explaining why the town next door didn't also hear about it or it didn't make national news. Think like Tremors, Jaws, these other things, monster type movies like Mothman Prophecies, things like that always take place in small towns. But that was a fun conversation.
What's interesting is I mentioned Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah.
However, the first two Ghostbusters are like freaking New York City.
Major cities, right.
Total opposite and really counter to that small town narrative.
That's a good point.
I
think maybe the small town adds a little bit of mystery maybe
Mm-hmm.
to the city folk who I think are afraid of anything that's not a big city.
Yeah. Plus it always feels like it could be anywhere in the middle of America. Tennessee, Indiana, Nebraska, Kansas, which would also terrify the coasters. So just the fact that they're that far from 24-hour sushi would be frightening.
Where do I get a gluten-free bagel?
Yeah, you brought up a lot of horror movies, but the genre specific to monster movies felt apropos. Also, Goonies was in like this little town in Oregon called Astoria or something like that. I think like E.T., small town, right? Like those type of things. Anyway, so many we could go through, but that was one thing. And I'm also glad that you really glossed over the fact that when the Burrito Boys mentioned that they took me to a gay bar in Manchester, you just flew right by that, which thank you very much for that. So great job. Really loved it. Enjoyed listening. And it's good to be back though.
Well, it was so much fun to listen to. I was I was literally at the studio where we normally record is where I was, and the internet there had crapped out, and I had asked a guy who was there earlier in the day, like, "Hey, is the internet down?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, and so like I'm trying to connect my phone, do the hotspot with the phone thing, and that wasn't nearly working, and I was so bummed because I had questions even, and a couple of things. One is, so Corey, I don't think you guys had mentioned that.
And right as he says that, his internet cuts out.
After we record,
you said, I don't think you mentioned and then we lost everything.
Oh, I don't think you mentioned the graphic.
Oh,
last week.
Okay.
The YouTube graphic, which if you've never seen the YouTube graphic or the YouTube thumbnail for our videos, after we're done recording, importantly, Corey then creates the graphic, and he's got these bubbles that he uses and puts appropriate images according to what we've talked about. And then prior to Corey's vacation, he was like, I don't really want to take my computer with me. What do you guys know what you're going to talk about? And I suggested that, just make one and force us to talk about whatever it is you want us to talk about. And so that's what he did. He made one. And, and so then like I have in my notes, like, just in case we need to fall back, I have in my notes, like, something that I could mention about each of the things that are on the graphic. and Dillon went in different directions than some of the ways that I was thinking. One of them was Corey, I don't think, knew when he made that we were planning on talking to the Grief Burrito guys.
Did not.
And so the new Legends of Zelda thing, like, that was obvious. Just make them talk about it for a minute.
Mm-hmm. Did the other ones feel like Easter eggs as you were listening? Like,
yes, they did. I was listening for them, and when they would come out of your mouth, just like a quick little, like a salamander, like an axolotl or whatever, and then you just kept going, but you never actually talked about axolotls. It was masterfully done, Dylan.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was like a video game challenge where you're like, I know I have to take the car off this ramp, but if I take it right to the edge of the ramp, I'll get the gold coin and hit the ramp. So you're like trying to like not take it too far off the rails, but still get the extra gold coin.
The real question is, did they know that you were challenged with that? Did they know that
they had no idea?
See, that's even better. If you'd have said, hey, I'm going to randomly mention axolotls and I need you to just go with it. I didn't even think you'd know what that creature was.
I texted Dillon earlier that week and was like, what is this?
I only knew because I'm a big enough nerd that over the years, when there's an article like Pokemon and their real life counterparts, I always click it to see, like, oh, I want to see how close the thing is. So as soon as I saw the image, I knew immediately. I didn't know the name of it, but I knew immediately what it was. That it was like the little lizard thing, and there was a Pokemon based on it. So,
as made popular by the game Minecraft.
Minecraft, yep.
You can get axolotls in luscious cave biomes in Minecraft, and then bring them back to your homestead.
Yeah,
I would have had no idea.
And apparently, like, people are flocking to this city in Mexico to see wild axolotls. It's one of the very few places you can find them, and
it's one of those creatures that you don't believe is real when you first see an image of it. You're like, oh, somebody photoshopped that. That's not real.
We're gonna have to use a different axolotl image for this week too, just as a topic.
So there's that. And another question I wanted to ask them was, listening to the Grief Burrito podcast, listening to those two guys talk to each other, one of the things my American brain realizes is that Harrison's accent is not the same as Jordan's accent.
Nice.
And I wanted to talk to them about that for a bit. Here in America, like, we're very aware of regional accents in the United States. But I'm not sure how aware the rest of the world is of the regional accents here in the United States. And, they might, I'm sure that they would probably know that there's like a basic American accent and then like Southern or Southwestern accents, but are they aware of the Bostonian accent? Are they aware of the upper Midwest accents? And
I would think it's like basically New Jersey, New York, the South, and then all the other Americans kind of sound the same.
yeah. But anyway, I want to talk to them about that because they do sound both intelligent because it's a British accent.
Always so smart.
But they are different accents, I think.
Well, we need to have them back so you can ask that question. And
Yeah.
I want another chance to chat with them. But if you're listening, thanks, guys. And that was a really fun episode. Great job. And I've now pre-ordered a SD card for my Nintendo Switch so that I can buy the new Zelda game and have enough space for it. Because every time I download a new game from the Nintendo eShop, I have to delete a game I'm not playing anymore. And that's getting annoying. So I just got the 256 or whatever SD card so I can play as many games as I want that I don't have the time for. Great job. That was a fun listen. How are you guys?
I knew you would want to weigh in on the Roosevelt shirt thing because that was a picture that you put up there. And I did tie that into them. But also, I think you had a note that you wanted to talk about it. And I didn't know if you took any on vacation because didn't you just get some?
I just got 3. So your wife sent me a text of the first one, which was a Boba Fett specific Roosevelt shirt. And so I ordered that one. Once I knew that the size was the right size that I needed from their website, I ordered 2 more because Sherry is always saying, you need more button downs and golf shirts that you can wear for your meetings that you do. And that's easier for me as a bigger guy in the winter months and the fall months when I can layer with like a gilet or something else on top of a button down. But in the summer, puffy vest, a gilet.
Why didn't you just say puffy vest?
Because they have a name.
No, they don't. You made that up.
Nope. So I learned it's a thing from fancy people, so now I use it.
They make movies. That's Studio Gilet.
Yeah.
And there's like the
World Traveler Corey over here coming out with Julianne vests.
Julian Huff vests.
You know, the front room of your house is actually called a foyer.
No, it's not. It's the entryway. Shut up.
So anyway, once I knew that the size was right, I ordered 2 more. So what I love about them, and you described it perfectly in the last episode, but like there are varying ranges of how subtle the geek culture and the pop culture references are. Some of them are blatant geek culture things, but some of them are very, very subtle. And the average person wouldn't realize you're wearing a Star Wars shirt, right? Like there's a Darth Vader one where it just mimics the shapes of his front panel thing and with little red lights. And it's just that pattern repeated. So there's nothing on it other than the shapes. But a Star Wars geek would go, oh, that's Vader's like thing. And then the other one I got is it's like a golf shirt. And it's got the Millennium Falcon and then stars in between, but they're spaced like at a nice diagonal so that it kind of looks almost just like a dotted golf shirt, but it's the Millennium Falcon. So yeah, I really like, little pricey, but I like the material and I love having something that could double as like a professional shirt, but then get a couple, oh, hey, that's fill in the blank. So thanks for the reco, Bree. I love it.
So what have you guys been up to? Corey's back from vacation. Dillon is not.
No,
I'm not.
Everything that I have that I brought is stuff we're watching. So if we're not ready to go there yet, I have done so much watching because I feel like, I don't know what we talked about 2 weeks ago, but maybe we didn't talk about what we were streaming. So I've got like several weeks worth of, I've got several weeks worth of buildup of like stuff that I've been watching. So
let's hold this streaming
Corey and
stuff.
I have weeks of, things that we did with our kids.
Yeah. I ignore mine entirely. So that makes sense.
Kendall, I've got some vacation stories and some things to run by you guys, but why don't you start with your updates and then we'll catch streaming on the back half.
Oh, dude, man, for me, we're in the I was about to say heat of summer, but it's actually relatively cool and chilly and rain jacket weather today and yesterday, which is good because we've been in a drought. But well, went to a Clippers game with the kids. My wife won a raffle for some Columbus Clippers tickets, which they are the affiliate farm club for the Cleveland Guardians. And so that was a lot of fun, and it got one of the boys was particularly into it, and so I've already purchased tickets in the future to see them again with just he and I, and that's going to be cool. So that's fun. We like to do these things where like I just kind of like keep a slow rotation of I went bowling with my daughter over the weekend and went to a nice dinner with her. So we did a little date night kind of thing. And then it's going to be that was Lydia, and then it's Joel's turn. And so I'm going to a soccer game with him in a few weeks or so. And then after that is going to be the baseball game with Isaac. And
That's fun, man.
Yeah. So we're ramping up. We're getting excited. We have our own vacation coming up in a couple of weeks. So we're planning that, and it's all good and fun over here at the
Clippers
moment.
games are
That's a particular.
time. And
Yeah,
I
was just going to say it's such a nice little stadium. Like it's clean, it's easy to get in and out of. If there's the theme nights are fun.
Yeah. And there's nothing like going to a minor league baseball game to like it eliminates so many of the negatives of going to a professional game.
Cost being cheap
because it's so much cheap, like a tenth of the price to go. You can, at least at Clipper Stadium, you can bring your own food. That's fine. You just cannot bring any alcohol, and it's the parking. Like you'll just drive right out of the parking garage when you're done, and part of that is because the parking in the arena district is pretty well thought out. There's a lot of parking garages down there, but even still, like if you go to a Blue Jackets game, which is right across the street from the same parking garage that you park in for the Clippers game, it takes you 20-30 minutes to get out of the parking garage once you get to your car. But not for a Clippers game. And it is a relatively new park, and it's a really nice park. It's won multiple awards for what it is. Good place, a lot of fun. I recommend supporting your minor league teams in your town. It's fun.
It's a good time. And like Dillon said, the themed nights. So they'll have like family and faith night or like superhero night or different things, which is a good time. So like for an affordable amount right there in the heart of downtown, you can watch a semi-pro team and all the excitements of a regular kids don't know the difference between the Reds and the Guardians and the Clippers. So just watch some baseball under the lights. It's a good time.
Yeah, and sometimes you get lucky. This particular time, they were playing Louisville, which is the affiliate for the Cincinnati Reds. And it just so happens that Joey Votto is nursing an injury. And so they had him actually playing starting at first base. So we got to see Joey Votto play.
Yep.
That was cool.
That's fun. So remind me where you're going on your vacation later this summer.
We're going up to St. Ignace, Michigan, which is
that's right,
just across the Mackinac Bridge from Mackinac City.
Yep.
We're going to go to Mackinac Island for one of those days, and we're bringing our bikes because there's no cars allowed over there, and it'd be cool.
It's a good time. And it's really fun that you do the daddy-daughter dates and daddy-son dates, and that's something that we do too, and try to expose them to different things. One of the things that we drove by on the way back, it's a 10.5-hour drive back from where we vacation in North Carolina, if you don't stop, which you need to stop. So anyway, I'm coming through Athens, Southern Ohio. The sun's going down. It's a beautiful evening. There was no wind on Saturday night. Clear skies, just this beautiful sunset. And I look out over my left coming up 33, and I see this area. I think it was called like Fast Tracks Motorplex. And it's a BMX, BMX bike, motocross track for semi-pro and kids and stuff. And so in the middle of this massive grassy area is a dirt track for these motocross bikes. And then there are campers and tents everywhere of the people who have somebody competing or they're just spectating this event. And it was just the perfect night. So people are around their campfires around this. And it was one of those things that I thought, should I get my son into motocross racing? But, you know, you try to expose them to different things. And we've talked a lot about like, how much do you encourage these different activities? But some of these sports, hockey, motocross, things like that, they're really expensive to get into. And you're traveling across a tri-state area to do these type of things. But Dillon and I have a cousin whose son is getting really like deep into motocross. Like he's got stickers and shirts with his name and number on them and a social media following. And it's like a big thing. But yeah, it was just one of those things where that's a whole other subculture and piece of life that people do that I know nothing about. It's like horse shows and barrel racing and all that stuff. It's fun. So to expose them to as much of that stuff as you can, I think is good. See what they take to.
So we were just before we started recording. You were talking about how you guys had Jet's Pizza.
Yeah.
How you like their tossed pizza, hand tossed pizza.
I do like their hand tossed pizza over they're the Detroit, right? Detroit style.
Yeah.
I do. I like it.
So here's
why am I
something
wrong?
I've been thinking about recently. I was watching, forget what I was watching, but somebody poo-pooed on Little Caesars, which I like Little Caesars. It's not just like I think it's good for $5. It's I think it's good and it's better than a lot of their competition. Like very bottom of the barrel for me is like Domino's is like far in the bottom of the hole. And there really isn't anybody close to as far down as Domino's is in my world. Little Caesars is definitely better than Domino's. I also think Little Caesars is definitely better than Pizza Hut. But I will say this about Little Caesars. Their Detroit style pizza is crappy. And I will also say this about Jets. Their Detroit style pizza is fine. But I feel like Jets is to Detroit style pizza what Sbarro is to New York style pizza.
Oh, snap.
It's fine, but it's not the thing that people love about Detroit style pizza. Like that's not what Jets is.
Right.
And just like Sbarro isn't what people love about New York style pizza.
Right.
Which I find interesting. I mean, there's Detroit style pizza is actually like it is thick, like that size, but it is relatively light. So it's not super dense like Jets is.
Right.
And usually the sauce is poured on top. Just like little streaks. And it's a much milder pizza than what I feel Jets gives you.
Yeah.
But the crust makes all the difference. I feel like the Wizard of Zaw pizza that Dillon brought us was far closer to being Detroit style than what Jets actually.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Which he calls Sicilian, not Detroit.
I know, yeah.
But
I feel like Sicilian pizza, which his is even like I guess like different from that even. Like his is like he's making a focaccia bread and then putting a pizza on top of it was his style. Which I guess technically isn't exactly Sicilian either. It's just kind of close. I feel like all three of them taste really good and they're very close to one another. So
I feel like the best thing Jets has going for it outside of the hand tossed pizza is the ranch. If you're into that kind of thing, they have very good ranch. Now, Pizza Nerds, which we've talked about before, which is closer to me, and we need to have him on the owners, him and her on the podcast. Their ranch is even better, but for a chain, Jets has very good ranch if you're into that. So that's a thing you need to try, regardless of what kind of pizza and crust you like from there. Get the ranch and get to dipping, if you know what I mean. Get to dipping with that sweet ranch.
Speaking of places calling foods things that they aren't, Dillon and I had a conversation the other day about Long Johns / filled sticks / what was the third one, Dillon? Bismarcks. So there's a place down by Dillon calling filled sticks Bismarcks, and that is wrong because we looked it up.
What a filled stick is, you might call it Long John.
A filled stick could be a Long John, and a Long John could be a filled stick, but neither are Bismarcks. Bismarcks are a totally different thing.
Are we talking about like donut-ish things?
Donuts.
Okay. Long John is literally the only term of those three I've ever heard.
Yeah. So a Bismarck is a totally different type of donut.
What's a Bismarck?
A Bismarck is what this place calls a filled stick.
Right, but we need to look up what
a Long John. You do a Long John. This place makes Long Johns and calls them Bismarcks.
I need to.
But they're a donut shop and they're ridiculously good donuts. So I would say they're kind of an expert and they're calling it a Bismarck, but it's not.
No, I'm saying they're wrong.
Well,
we don't make expertly crafted donuts, and they do. So
this reminds me of a time that like my wife, a brilliant woman was trying to talk to me about how like drive-in convenience stores or drive-through convenience stores, where you pull in and buy your beer or whatever and then go along your way. She called them all pony kegs, and I didn't know what a pony keg was yet. And pony keg is a keg of beer, but it's like the small skinny keg of beer, I guess. They call them a pony keg. And she said, yeah, in Cincinnati, everybody calls them pony kegs. That's what these places are called. And I'm like, really? And I didn't know that. And she was the one who also explained to me what a pony keg was. And then we were at some point at her parents' house, and her parents were like, no, we don't. But we still, I think our family calls them pony kegs now. That's what they are. So maybe it'll catch on.
Well, and I feel the need to explain. Although people probably figured it out, but there are a lot of places that don't have these. And when we say drive-through in the Midwest, and we're not referring to a fast food restaurant, this is not like a McDonald's drive-through or a Chick-fil-A drive-through. It's literally an extension of the building that continues, and there's typically coolers on both sides of you when you pull in, full of drinks or racks of snacks and things. Sometimes they even serve pizza and will walk up to your car. So yes, it is kind of gross that your car is kind of sitting in the building, pushing exhaust into the building, but both ends are open. Obviously where your car is. So if you Google like Midwest drive-through, most of the time it's a convenience store size, but sometimes there's like whole restaurants that have a drive-through attached to them that are like huge. And they'll have a ridiculous amount of drinks and snacks that you can get and literally not get out of your car. So I don't know what parts of America don't have those, but I definitely know that there are parts of America that don't have those.
Or there's no restaurant attached at all, and you're just essentially driving inside of a tiny grocery store.
Yeah.
To get usually beer, but sometimes like cheese sticks or some chips or things like that.
Any kind of drinks, alcoholic or not, and then also snacks. And then sometimes, I know the one that we grew up going to had like a pizza shop in it that you could get pizza and they would bring it out to your car when you pulled up, or like pizza and wings. Some of them have sit-down restaurants or grocery stores inside, some don't. Super handy. I feel like that's how New Jersey is with the whole they can't pump their own gas thing. Like, they're like, we know that this is only a thing here. And so enjoy it while you're in New Jersey.
All right,
Corey's getting a pic.
I need this.
Okay, this image that I've blown up on the right here, sorry for those not watching on YouTube, is a Long John or a filled stick.
So Long Johns and filled sticks are the same thing? They're synonymous?
They're synonymous.
Okay.
A Bismarck, loosely defined, is any non-whole donut filled with something. So I guess you could say that a Bismarck but typically a Bismarck is more ballish in nature without the hole and used to be filled with savory things, according to Wikipedia. But it can also be filled with jelly or cream. But they're more like a bun shape.
Okay.
But
So
not like a Boston cream donut.
But
Right.
not a Boston cream donut?
No, because Boston creams are specifically chocolate icing with yellow cream, right?
Okay. What about strawberry filled donut? Like a jelly donut. Is a jelly donut a Bismarck?
Oh no.
Oh no. We needed so like the Berliner, it's got to be
Berliner?
Got to be Berliner.
Also known as a big Bismarck, is a German jelly donut with no central hole made from sweet yeast dough fried in lard or cooking oil. Jam filling, but it started with savory stuff. And then they show some versions down here that are chocolate. These are all technically Berliners or Bismarcks, but none of those would be considered long johns or filled sticks because they're not sticks and they're not long.
So this place is calling Long John's Bismarcks?
Yep.
Yes. Specifically iced with cream in the middle, long donuts.
So are we talking like the only difference here is shape? If they weren't rectangular, then they'd be fine.
Technically, yes. Is that
okay?
Yeah. So a Bismarck could be a Boston cream.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. A Boston cream is a particular type of Bismarck.
I love how petty we are. This is awesome.
I thought you were going to pull up a picture of a drive-through. I thought
no, sorry. I was still hung up.
I definitely wanted to come back to this donut thing because I did not understand what a Bismarck was versus a Long John, and now I do. I appreciate the fact. I'm all about like, hey, if the shape's different, got to name it something else.
And I'm all for trying all of these things to make sure that I understand the difference. And it's to the point where jokingly now, because my wife grew up saying Long John and I say filled stick, where when she says Long John, I pretend to not know what she means until she says the words filled stick. You want to get Long John? Get what? I didn't. Do you want?
That's like my wife in winter with toboggan. Is it a hat or is it a sled?
Oh.
And I pretend to not know when she says, hand me the toboggan, because the only toboggan I know is the one that we used at our grandpa's sledding hill that had a big curled front.
Mm-hmm.
That's a toboggan. It ain't no darn.
Wear it on your head if you want. Man, see, this is the filled stick. I've never heard Bismarck either. But
all right, folks, we need your regional terms for things. So for all of you listening, think of some regional terms from maybe you moved somewhere else and you never heard a shopping cart referred to as a buggy before.
Yeah.
Fill us in on some of your favorite regional terms for things, not pronunciations like crick versus creek. I'm talking actually different words. That would be fun to hear.
And I'm wondering, I'm kind of wondering if like the Long John thing, in the same areas that would say crick instead of creek, like they're like, that's a field stick. We call those field sticks.
Right. Anyway. Okay, I feel like this is
or other way around.
I feel like this is a good spot to take a break and hear some words from some of our friends in Odd Pods Media. And I'll be back to get you guys' take on some beach etiquette questions.
Love it.
This is Beer in Front. Every week I'll talk about a beer that maybe we've forgotten along the way while we get those check-ins and badges. Being the Chicago beer guy, I'll also talk about great craft beer in the city of Chicago. And remember, sometimes the beer in front of you is the best one yet. That's Beer in Front, part of the Odd Pods Media Network.
And we're back. Hey, you should definitely listen to that podcast. It's one of my favorites. So our first full day of vacation, the night before, we had been getting high tide warnings. And there was going to be a full moon which means the tide was going to be 2 feet higher than it normally is.
Okay.
Meaning it's a pretty deep beach where we vacation. And so there's maybe 20, 30 yards of sand, but it meant it was going to come all the way up to the bottom steps of your wooden walkouts to the beach. So pretty high.
Mm.
The next day was going to be the first day that I take out our 10 by 10 pop-up canopy. And my ritual every morning on vacation is I wake up early to do this, to claim the best spot of the beach just outside of our private walkout to the beach. It's not like we're at a condo where we're fighting for the same beach space with everybody else. So I really probably didn't have to get up early to do it, but it was just a fun thing. I would come in, make my coffee, and now I know our canopy's out there for the rest of the day for both families, because we vacationed with another family, for both families to enjoy all day, for the people who don't want to be in direct sunlight all day. Because the tide had come in so high the night before, I set the front legs of the canopy as close to that high tide mark, not knowing if it would come back up to that same height later in the afternoon, and didn't want to have to move it when the waves inevitably, or perhaps came up again to that same height, like move it, because I bury each leg like a foot down into the sand. Are you tracking?
Yes.
So, which meant until that point, there was a lot of space in front of us, between us and the water. Now, if you've been to a beach, you know that people generally sort of, if you're going to form more than one row of your setup for the day, the courtesy thing is to like stagger so that you're not directly in front of the people behind you. You go off to the left or off to the right so that they kind of get their own view. You can see everywhere. It's not that crowded. It doesn't matter. But the common courtesy is if you're going to do rows, you stagger.
Yeah.
So 7:30, I set up our canopy, but I'm clear at the back by the dunes and there's plenty of beach. And my wife goes, it's kind of far back, no? And I go, yeah, it is. But like, I don't know if the tide's going to come up high again because of the high tide stuff until the full moon goes away. So we'll just see. So like just before lunchtime, this family parks at the public beach access and starts hauling stuff. And I'm talking umbrellas and the big tired wagons and pails and I'm sitting under the canopy just watching this all happen. Not once do they look back to like assess, hey, are we going like directly in front of someone's? They just were. He sticks a finger in the air and goes, this spot feels good. And it's right smack dab. It's smack dab in front of, and it's, listen, I don't judge. I'm not a fit individual, but it's not exactly the type of person that you want to be staring at for the remainder of your time at the beach. And I'm just laughing to myself, thinking the first thing I would have done, I'm not saying I'm right, but the first thing I do, if I'm walking parallel with the beachfront, before I even place one object down, I'm going to look to my right and see if I'm blocking. Am I generally staggered? And so it just dumbfounded me that not once did they even think to go, am I crazy? Is that something that you'd be like, of all they could have gone 20 yards to the left, 20 yards to the right, but they chose to go directly. Now, again, we still have a view of the ocean. We can still access the water. It didn't really change the rest of our afternoon. It was more something I found comical and podcast worthy that they didn't once look back. Because I think had even one member of the 5 to 9 person party, if you include the kids, had said, oh, Carl, look, you set up right in front of these fine folks, they'd go, oh, geez, sorry about that. But nobody even looked back.
They just didn't think about it.
Didn't even think about it. Totally the center of their own universe. Just like, this spot feels good.
I think they got a peripheral look back at you and muttered out loud to themselves, this guy's so far back, he must not even like the ocean. I better block it for him. He doesn't even seem like he wants to see the water. I'm just going to set up all my stuff. I'll make a nice wall so he doesn't have to look at it all the way back there.
This guy's more into parking lots, I think, than water.
So
that's where he's.
So my buddy who we're vacationing with, he said he was watching this whole scene unfold while he was making a sandwich for lunch, just cackling, laughing, watching me watch these people. And then Sherry comes out and she goes, if you wouldn't have been so far back, there would have been no buffs. I didn't. Oh man, so funny.
Man, it's hard because you're probably right. Like if anybody in the party would have thought about it and have looked back, like they all would have been. They probably wouldn't have been like, who cares? They've probably been like, oh, you know what? You're right. Let's scoot on over. Or at least we're from the Midwest. That's what we would expect people to do.
Let me scooch on over.
It's the spatial awareness. It's the spatial awareness we talk about all the time. They would have gone, gee, Carl, we could have moved a little bit over here and then not blocked their.
75% of our pet peeves, as we have realized, have to do with people being completely unaware of the other people around them. And this is one of those things. And it's hard to be mad at that situation because it's more than likely an awareness issue. They're not trying to be a dick. They're probably not. They're just unaware.
Totally unaware.
They probably say crick.
Yep.
Now,
okay.
An important follow-up question, and then a not related but related story. In that, was somebody aware of what they were doing? What kind of sandwich did he make? Do you know?
I don't.
Okay. So here's a question. We're getting ready to drop our kiddo off at Vacation Bible School. And, the end of a row of spaces, when there's a road that curves around, sometimes they'll take away one of the spaces, right? So so there's a spot. Normally there'd be a spot here, but the road curves, so nobody uses that spot. There's no line. So it's like spot kind of makes the end of the lane. So somebody pulls in and sees that open corner angle non-spot and pulls right into that. And lots of cars are going around them both ways in what's now been made into a narrow turn because there's a car where there's not supposed to be a car.
Mm-hmm.
Very busy parking lot at this moment. 400 kids at this thing being dropped off, picked up, checked in, run to car, back to car, people moving around. And somebody pulled in that spot. And one of the parking attendant people, certain areas are kind of roped off, runs over, kind of points and goes, hey, you need to move. They back out. 3 or 4 cars behind them, somebody else pulls into the same spot and is even further away into the turn lane. And I just think, and I'm gonna just say the thing that's wrong, but I'm gonna say it anyways. A guy driver got out of the car, and because he was a guy, I thought he knows better. And that sounds awful, okay? I realize what that sounds like. But I just looked at him and I sized him up and I went, you know better. Shame on you.
Oh.
And the parking attendant helper person didn't see him, so he got to walk away. And now this turn where these cars are all going both directions is now a really tight turn.
Yeah.
You got to know,
me.
right? Everyone knows.
You have to. That is one where it's like, see all these other cars. Did you see all the ones in front of you that could have pulled in there but didn't?
Right.
You have you're admitting to yourself that all of those were decent people and you're the one who's not.
What I would have appreciated more was even at some point pulling into the grass is even more understandable in a situation where you can and it's flat enough than trying to make that a spot. Like if you're at a very busy place, even at somebody's house, and you're like, man, even the street parking's kind of tough. Like, I'm just going to pull into the grass into their yard because, like, I don't know where else to go. At least you get it. But I'm like, come on, the little corners, the corner non-spot that you think is, come on.
Yeah, because that wasn't like the pulling into the grass things that you just said. It's like, because you have to do something.
You have to go somewhere. You have to.
That guy had other options. He just didn't like them.
Agreed. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I violently agree with you, but even as a visual person, I wasn't understanding your diagram. So you're going to have to draw it on a Post-it and send it to me later. Okay. So another thing I want you guys to weigh in on. So my buddy Drew and I, and by the way, the best vacation with this family. They're just it's such an important thing if you're going to vacation with another family, and we talked about this when we did this last year with them, like, to know the type of vacationers they are. Are they color-coded itinerary doing 9 different activities per day type of vacationers? Or are they like, we literally do nothing but sit at the beach for 12 hours type of vacationers? If you're expecting one and get the other, you're going to have a very different vacation. They could not have been easier or better people to vacation with. It was awesome. So Drew and I are standing out at the beach one day, and I'm going to share one more thing. And we notice all of these things lining the beach. Not quite this many, but about like half of that. And so we start making the joke that Brian Regan makes about cranberries getting in all the other juices. Like, Drew and I are like, who is the guy selling these things that everybody has them? We initially thought that it was the rental company on the island providing them for people who opted for these things. Nope, it's just a really popular thing. They're called Shibumi shades, and they only come in these 2 colors, royal blue and turquoise or whatever that is. And I'm curious to get you guys' thoughts on them, but I can only tell you that being even kind of close to one, the sound is similar to when you're on the highway and you're passing a semi truck that has a canopy over its trailer and it's just going. They're so freaking loud that I don't know that it's worth the trade-off of how quote unquote easy they are to set up, because it's just one pole that you bend and then a bag of sand to weigh down the flap on the back side. Have you guys seen these before? Would you get one for shade? And then, by the way, if the wind dies down, you ain't got no shade anyway.
No, I wouldn't. And I'm going to give everyone a tip. If you go to IKEA, they've got those like half dome tents where like one whole side is open, but it still tapers off with like a net opening. And they're like less than $20. And like 2 or 3 adults could lay down in the shade in one of those things. So you don't need to buy this. Go to IKEA and find their little half tent thing. And we've taken it to the beach and it's way better.
I'm the guy right here with the 10 by 10 canopy that's really quiet and stationary and isn't flapping in my face when I walk by it.
Yeah. I'm the camping nerd with 2 poles and a tarp and some rope. Does anybody set up that kind of a shelter on a beach? I feel like there's no reason why you couldn't.
No. The half tents we saw a lot of.
Except the Midwest grandpa who's like still putting up a 40-year-old tent because it still works, and why wouldn't he still take it? It doesn't matter that there's been 14 newer and cheaper inventions in the last 65 years. That's just the one he still has. And
yeah, I was going to say, none of them are cheaper than the one he still has.
Yeah. But, well, gifts, there's always gifts. Yeah.
So we saw a lot of the half tents. We saw a lot of the 10 by 10 pop-ups, and we saw a ton of these things. And then there's the good old-fashioned big thing that looks like a screw that you screw into the sand to put your umbrella in. But so like the comments, so Drew and I just start talking about these Shibumi shades and how loud they are, and is it really worth the hassle? And then when the wind changes, you got to move it anyway. And so, of course, it shows up in my social media feed because, you know, Big Brother is listening and we've been talking about it. The comments section under the Shibumi shade is so divisive. It's like worst things ever. We got one. They're fine. Stop. Get out of the comments. And it's like, you can't even hear the ocean because these things are so loud.
This
People
is
are
the
like,
new sound of the ocean, friend. Get used to it.
people are straight up fighting in the Shibumi Shade advertisement ad on Facebook. It was cracking me.
It's so good. I've got a picture for you, by the way. Does this help?
Oh, yeah. Very
Yeah.
nicely done.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
if you're not on YouTube, you should be, and then you could see the non-parking spot, parking spot.
So that's where if I saw a motorcycle pull up into one of those, I wouldn't be mad.
Right.
At
I'd
an
be fine with
angle,
that.
I wouldn't have cared or probably even thought of it.
Yeah.
But it was like he parked even further. It was like he didn't even pull in really tight to the corner. It was like an extra wide turn. Like, I don't have even a line on this other side I've got to worry about. I can just like, we'll take my boat around, hitch it around. Yeah, it was annoying. All right. There's your picture.
Thank you for that. So anyway, those were my beach things. I've got another non-streaming thing, but I want to save it for next time because I watched about half the stuff Dillon has, and I'm excited to talk about it.
Let's do it, Dillon.
I
Let's
watched
hear it.
things. How far are we into this? We're almost done, right?
10
So
minutes,
I
10,
can
15 minutes.
I can like rattle these off, and then you can just pick.
You say that every time.
Well, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just want to talk about something longer. So do we like me just rattling it off and then
Yeah.
The time is yours.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like anyone's going to turn off the program, right?
How
Like,
dare they?
So all right. So the movie Tetris on Apple TV Plus feels very much in the vein of like the Air Jordan movie. Like they're making this huge dramatic film out of the invention of Tetris, but it was like somehow like a Soviet era spy thriller, but about Tetris. Really, really interesting, actually. I don't know how much of it's based on reality, but essentially, a Russian developer makes the game. They sell the rights to, I'll just say like a British company who bought the Atari rights, but not the arcade game rights, but they think they have the arcade rights. And then there's this other guy who thinks he's buying the arcade rights, but didn't. And then he learns about the Game Boy coming out, and he's like, does anyone have the handheld rights? And everyone's like, what are handheld rights? Well, yeah, of course we have handheld rights, but they don't have handheld rights. And he's trying to get them because he and like finagle a deal between this like British company, the Russian Soviet government, and Nintendo because he wants to package Tetris with the Game Boy that hasn't even been talked about yet. And so like, again, no idea how much is based on reality, but they made it very interesting. Not funny, like a drama, very, very good. Ted Lasso season 3, of course, is over. Corey hasn't finished that. The series is actually over as of now.
Which was news to me. You and Dad were talking about that last night at our happy hour, and I was like, it's done?
Possible spinoff, but not confirmed by anybody official. It's like they just think that they're, somebody's tweeted like but they don't, I think it's what's likely to happen is, regardless, this is not a spoiler, Jason Sudeikis will likely exit and they'll come up with a spinoff that is no longer needs to be named Ted Lasso. That would be my guess. Monster Factory on Apple TV Plus. Have you guys seen this? This is more up your alley. It's wrestling themed. So there's like, obviously WWE, there's AEW, there's all the different wrestling things. Well, in New Jersey, there is a wrestling school called Monster Factory, and other WWE people have come from it. And it originally was ran by a professional wrestler, and then some guy bought it. But he basically trains. They have matches in this little wrestling studio called the Monster Factory. This guy wanted to be a wrestler, but hurt himself and couldn't become one. So there's only one season. By the end of this one season, they put on an event in Philly where they do like ECW matches or something. And there's scouts there, and it's about these kids who want to make it to the bigger leagues of wrestling. I found it interesting because at one point they explain like some basics of wrestling and what's a heel, and then they're explaining this and that. So it's really interesting. It's super short. I don't know, 6 or 8 episodes. It probably will only have one season, but if you're into wrestling even a little bit, I found it really interesting.
It's what we need to get our wives to watch that.
Yeah. So maybe check that out first.
So they can catch on and then, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to make sure you don't have any crazy people at your church, check out Shiny Happy People on Amazon Prime and The Secrets of Hillsong on Hulu. Really good ways to make sure that nothing cuckoo's going on.
Hold on, because I watched those and I've been wanting to weigh in on those.
I was trying to keep that very polite.
I know. And they were deeply moving for me for multiple reasons. And we've shared on here before that we were both, all three really raised in the church and are church going guys and love Jesus and all that. And so my first concern was that because at least one of them is done by Vanity Fair, that this was going to be some Christians messed up. Let's really highlight it and be really unfair. And
let's go get them.
Let's go get them. Because these are the people who are claiming that they are above these things. And so let's really attack them, because media has done that in the past when well-known church leaders fall. But I was really impressed that it seemed very balanced and fair. The first one I watched was the Hillsong one on Hulu. And I, like many people, knew more about Hillsong's music than the church network. And that one was very fair. In fact, one of the talking heads in that is a guy named Mike Cosper. And Mike Cosper is a writer and podcaster. And he's the one that was really the driving force behind the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill podcast I told you guys about a while back. So they talk to people on both quote unquote sides of the argument, and it's not a Christian bashing sort of thing, which I appreciated. And then Shiny Happy People, you've got one of the Duggar daughters and her family. So it's not like hey, the Duggars messed up, let's go get them. It's like their own family going, this is how messed up this situation is. Think it's important that we remind ourselves that these things still go on in businesses and the secular world too. But it is, of course, more newsworthy when people who are supposed to be above some of these things, or that's what the world thinks, right? We know that that's not what we're saying. But so anyway, I thought they were both very interesting, very sad also as you're watching to know that can go on. But then you remind yourself, there's human beings involved. And for whatever reason in our culture, we glorify the person, or we have this celebrity worship thing that we're so all about. We glorify the shiny people or the pretty pastor and his wife instead of following the principles in Christ himself. So anyway, super fascinating, super cringe, well worth a watch. Yeah, I just had to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I think you separated the difference nicely. Most of your average, I don't mean average in a bad way, most of your average churchgoers know they're messed up, admit they're messed up, and are actively trying to work through whatever they have going on. This is especially bad because a lot of the people that they're talking about are people who are really acting as though they really were above and had
it all together. And
it was really the definition of like pride comes before the fall. Actively hiding secrets and things that shouldn't have been going on. And so a huge difference in the type of person that you're talking about. But from the outside looking in, a lot of people would probably look at them and go, oh, well, I know lots of people like that. It's like, well, you might, but also there are lots of people who attend church that know that they mess up. And there's a big difference in those types of people.
It would be a really interesting thing to take the Rise and Fall of Mars Hill podcast, the Hillsong documentary, and even probably Shiny Happy People, and look at the parallels of those people who were acting as though they had it all together and pretending and hiding things, and see where things like ego, money, trying to become the, and then Mike Cosper wraps up the Secrets of Hillsong really well in the final episode. He said, what if for just 1 year the American church didn't look at numbers as its main metric for how effective it was being as a body, but instead looked at the impact it was having on the poor, the hungry, the widow, and I thought that was such a fascinating take, because a lot of times what these people are trying to do is to be the coolest new church on the block. And the way that you do that is to be charismatic and charming and beautiful and on Instagram and social media, where a lot of that other stuff comes in. So they feel like they have to do that because the national church metric is numbers instead of perhaps efficacy. And are we loving on our community well? As small of a church as we may be, we can be 50 people and still loving our community really well. So I thought that was really compelling. And anyway.
Yeah, no, this is one thing I jokingly dog on city dwellers a lot. But when it comes to churches, I feel like the inner city churches, in my opinion, I know a lot of pastors, and like I meet with different worship leaders from all over the place, mostly from like Columbus, Ohio. The inner city churches are doing stuff, man, that the suburban churches aren't doing. And it's not just leadership. It's the Christians that are, it's the congregation, the people that are getting involved in this stuff.
Yep.
And just to kind of like a couple of weeks ago when I was talking about some of my issues with suburbanites and myself being a suburbanite. And my flyover point is that I feel like sometimes suburban people look at inner cities and think they need Jesus. And they forget the fact that the suburbanites need Jesus as well, possibly for very different reasons. And some of the things that they're living for are not Jesus, just like the people that they're pointing to in their city. And when it comes to churches, people in suburbia think that they can throw money at a problem and not get involved.
Yeah.
They think to them, one of the big ones for me, one of the sort of pet peeves for me is families who come in and programming. That's one of the big ones for me. You have people come in and they say, well, if I donate, then I expect there to be programming for my kids and programming for all of this stuff. I mean, I'm too stressed to get involved. I don't have the time to get involved and do those things. So I'm just going to be a financial donor, and
y'all figure it out for my benefit.
Yeah, y'all figure it out. And if you don't have a youth group that I like, then I'm moving on to the next place. And that's the mindset of so many people in suburbia. And I feel like inner city churches don't quite have that problem. They don't have people just trying to like throw money at it and then expect services.
Yeah, they're more willing to say, how can I help be a part of this solution that might be lacking, but I'm willing to sign up or volunteer, or take the kids bowling and call it a youth group. Like, yeah. Anyway, we all need Jesus. And I know, Dillon, that's more time than you wanted to spend on those two documentaries, but they're super fascinating. And they raise so many good questions. Chief among them, I think, is to be on the lookout for making sure those same things don't happen in our bodies and in our communities.
I think, and I've probably talked about this just slightly before, but I think sometimes Christians would avoid that, expecting it to be, oh, well, they're just going to bash. I think it's a good learning thing that you can do in the comfort of your own home and watch it and then sit and think about it with anyone else, not worrying about what anyone else thinks, not worrying about, and be informed. And in the same way, I think people should do similar things with politics, with your own. hey, pick up the article that criticizes your tribe, quote tribe, every now and then, and just sit and think about it for a minute. And if it's true, it's true, even if you don't like it or even if you don't want to hear it. And so I think it's important that we have the ability to do that and accept and understand criticism of things that are important to us, even though we don't want to hear it. And so that's kind of why it's important for me. Like, there's got to be that part of me that at least understands.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that I don't watch it because I'm looking for an excuse to cut and run. I'm looking because it's like, it's good to know what kind of behaviors are, unacceptable or things to look out for or whatever. And then you can move on. Finally, I did something Friday I haven't done this past Friday I haven't done in a very long time. I went to back-to-back movies at the movie theater, and it was so much fun.
That's a good afternoon right there.
The timing worked out to where I could literally walk out of one movie into the trailers of another within. And it was so good. So I went to see Spider-Man 2, Across the Spider-Verse. That's the animated film by Sony, not Tom Holland. If you like the first one, you'll like the second one. I thought it was even better than the first. It's a great movie. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 was the second movie. And honestly, that trilogy of movies specifically is up there approaching what they did with Captain America in 3 movies. It's incredibly well done, a really really good film, and a very rewarding ending to the story for now, or possibly forever. Who knows when they'll revisit the Guardians characters. James Gunn was the person behind those 3 films, and he's now at the helm of the DC universe, like Kevin Feige. So James Gunn is gone from Marvel for now. They wrapped up the story in a way that they could never really revisit it if they didn't want to. But I think if you like the first Guardians, or if you like the first and second, definitely watch the third, and when it hits Disney Plus, and let that movie wrap it all up for you. Because it was incredibly well done. I think those movies really just got better each one. 1 to 2, 2 to 3 just got better and got better again. So really nice finale for that trilogy.
I heard people are crying. Did you cry?
I didn't cry. I could certainly see why. At multiple points too, not just like at a singular point. There are multiple places that could do that. But no, I didn't. But I can't wait to watch it again because it was so good. That's one that as soon as it hits Disney Plus, I'll want to watch it again because it was really, really well done.
Awesome. Well, there you go, folks. There's some things for you to go buy or consume. If you're considering a Shibumi shade, let me leave you with just a few of the comments in the comments section from under the ad. We had one and sold it. It's too loud. All you hear all day is the material rippling above. I'm at the beach this week and tons of people are putting these up. They are so annoyingly loud and block others from enjoying their view of the beach. We love ours. Noisy as shit. Gave mine away. Could not love my Shibumi more. Now you guys need to come up with a lightweight beach lounge chair. So anyway, there you go. Couldn't be more all over the map. It's been fun catching up with you guys. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you have any funny regional terms for things, let us know. And if you've watched any of the documentaries or movies or TV shows we've talked about, we would love to hear your thoughts. You can always reach out to us. All the ways you can do so are in the LinkTree link that accompanies every release of everything we do on every platform. So you can email us, you can text us, you can leave voicemails. We haven't gotten a voicemail in a while. That would be cool. All of the things. And also be sure to visit our sponsor, Artius Man, for amazing men's grooming products. Artiusman.com. That's ARTIUSMAN.com. Fill your cart with locally made, all natural ingredient made products for your beard and body. And use promo code The Middle. That's The Middle, all one word, at checkout for 25% off of your entire order. You'll be glad you did, and it would help us out. It will help you out, and it will help them out. Dillon, Kendall. I've been Corey. Y'all have a great week. Be kind to each other. Y'all need Jesus.